Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moments. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Before starting the video, special thanks to Deletahana for $5 NZ. Today is explanation of Swallowed Star episode number 30 for based on novel. So let's start. The desire the powerful creatures had to connect to the outside world was understandable. I'll know in 3 days. Luo Feng stopped guessing and started to reflect on the battle. The treasure is indeed powerful. I created the most suitable secret technique to make the best use of it, and it gave me the power to defeat Lightning Racing Emperor, mused Luo Feng. It's such a pity. If he were not here, he would have had at least one treasure to defend himself. There weren't enough treasures in Ice Hell. The 12,000 creatures detained in Ice Hell did carry some treasures. However, after an extensive amount of time, almost all the treasures had been claimed by the top emperors. Even so, the treasures these top emperors owned were significantly fewer than those owned by the emperors outside. For instance, Seven-Blade Emperor had a set of 7-blade weapons, together with treasures of defense and escape. In addition to the golden ponds, he had a tremendous number of treasures. It was possible that Lightning Racing Emperor and Bone Emperor were as strong as Seven-Blade Emperor and Haiti Emperor. However, if they were engaged in a real fight, talents like Seven-Blade Emperor and Live Falling Emperor, who were specially trained by their clans, could have crushed the detainees in Ice Hell. Treasures aren't less important than powers, Luo Feng postulated. It's the same for the masters of the universe. Teachers Washanku has already provided me with enough treasures. And I need to strengthen my power. 3 days later, on the peak of the iceberg in northern Ice Hell, Jihon Emperor stood at the foot of the mountain, addressing the metal person with respect. Master, said Jihon Emperor. Stay here, ordered the metal person. Run if something goes wrong. Yes, Master, Jihon Emperor answered. After giving the order, the metal person started to hike leisurely. The metal person was Luo Feng, who was using the method of the demon race. The powerful creatures of the demon race would use their body to handle things like these while hiding their real bodies in the world ring, as those powerful creatures of the demon race had enormous bodies. It would have been inappropriate to use their real bodies when adventuring the universe in spaceships. Luo Feng gave a bit of his consciousness in that body so that nothing would happen his physical self, even if that body was destroyed. It's been a long time since I last hiked, thought Luo Feng. It's tiring to hike under the pressure of Ice Hell. Luo Feng hiked slowly. Suddenly, the shadow of the black armored servant appeared. You come, the metal person said in Luo Feng's voice. Luo Feng had adjusted the pronunciation of the body. It's you? The servant was furious. I can't believe that you come here yourself. I thought you would send your servant here. Wouldn't it be better to come here myself? Luo Feng said. Let's go. Luo Feng vanished with his body. They were inside the spectacular palace when they appeared again. Luo Feng looked up and saw the god, Silver Eye, through the body's optical system. Luo Feng felt had equaled the first time he'd seen him, but now the scene was blurry, as the body was being inhibited. Silver Eye, take back your force, Luo Feng shouted. My body can't take this. There will be no deal if the body is crushed. Human, called Silver Eye. Luo Feng withdrew his force. He could easily blow up an entire star with a breath. He was trying not to affect the fragile body. I reckon you're going to take the deal, Luo Feng said. You're not afraid that I'll snatch the sensor? Silver Eye said. Snatch it, said Luo Feng. Have you never known what technology is, or have you just forgotten how the outer world works? This anonymous account is permanent and it's strictly monitored. I only brought a few accounts here, but I can apply for many more. I can take away your access authority even if you're offered one now. What if you take away my access authority after I make the deal with you? Silver Eye asked. Relax. I won't do something so clearly disadvantageous, Luo Feng said. You have to have faith in my reputation and know that I'm somebody in the human race. I won't damage my reputation merely for a sensor. Good to hear, Silver Eye replied. However, it's completely unfair to trade a treasure for a single sensor. I want 3 of them. I only have 2 in total and need to do business in the future, Luo Feng answered. I'll only give you 1, and that's the final offer. Why do you need 3? You're the only one who needs it anyway. You can lend it to your friends if they need it. Luo Feng had been born solemn. He wasn't good at negotiations as the human, and he wouldn't bargain if he didn't value the treasure and the sensor equally. 2, Silver Eye said. one, and that's the final offer, Luo Feng said. There's no use for you to have two, either. Maybe you want to resell one of them? I'll tell you now that I can totally take away the access authority of one of the sensors, as you're the one I'm making the deal with and you're the only one who can get the access authority. Okay, one sensor it is, Silver Eye gave in. Indeed, he was weak at negotiating. Greedy, said Luo Feng. Cunning, Silver Eye couldn't help saying from his throne. Cunning, agreed Luo Feng. This goddamn human is cunning as one can be, the servants swore to one another in a low voice. That was a treasure which was difficult to obtain. Although the top 10 limit emperors had some of them, they were shrewd enough to avoid the 5 invincible emperors at all costs. Hence, it would be tricky to catch them. This is the sensor. Luo Feng threw the unprotecting quantum computer to Silver Eye, and it fell once it left Luo Feng's hand. Silver Eye caught the quantum computer in shock. Be careful, he complained. It's too repressive, here, Luo Feng said with a smirk. Besides, my body is too weak. Now that you have the sensor, where is the treasure? I shall try it first. Silver Eye started to test it and connected to the quantum computer, which led him into the virtual universe. Luo Feng said, I've created 80,000 virtual mock accounts for you in case you don't know how to use it. Besides, the scanning function has been turned off, and don't you try to turn it on. If you do, your real figure will be shown in the virtual universe. A human dummy will be shown otherwise. You can totally change the size of the body and turn into human shape before turning on the scanning function. Silver Eye smiled. Interesting. These virtual games you humans are playing are quite interesting. Silver Eye looked down at Luo Feng and grimaced. The fear wears off the second I step into the virtual universe. Luo Feng burst into laughter. This is the treasure. Silver Eye threw out a treasure. It was a 3-meter-long viridescent axe. You're just greedy, Luo Feng repeated the point. Glad to trade with you. He smiled. You should be happy, Silver Eye, as I'm going to seclude and cultivate myself. You should know that it's almost impossible to find me, and when I come out next time, which may happen hundreds of years from now, the other 4 invincible emperors will need to satisfy me if they want to deal with me. Go? And stop being smug here, Silver Eye said. Escort Luo Feng out. Yes, master. The black-armored servant teleported Luo Feng. Silver Eye looked afar and smiled. He had obtained 2 treasures in total in Ice Hell, but he had only used one without touching the other. Besides, the treasure he actually valued wasn't ideal because he could wield much more vigorous power by his own move. The virtual universe and virtual games, said Silver Eye. There are so many lives here, and it is filled with hustle and bustle. Wow! More than 1 trillion creatures playing one game. Silver Eye spared a slice of his consciousness and played the game. He needed to relax after being desolate for so long. This anonymous account was, indeed, more valuable than a treasure to Silver Eye. Inside the cave in Eastern Ice Hell, Luo Feng held the viridescent axe. It was thin and looked like a jade. Ha! I didn't even know whether it would work when the idea hit me, he said. But now, I actually have one treasure, which is more than valuable. I only got an ice net when I slaughtered all the creatures in Star Tower, and all the other fortunes I got combined were as valuable as one treasure. Luo Feng could feel its power merely by looking at it. He laughed, put it away, and connected to the virtual universe. Inside the practice field exclusive to Luo Feng said between the stars, there's still room for me to improve. I only came up with the first move for both Moon Policy and 1000-star Sermon Map. As for Ranch and 7 moves, I'm already proficient in the 2nd chapter, and I can totally create the 2nd move based on that chapter and conception of Beast God. On one hand, it would be much more difficult to create the 2nd move, on the other, he was at a higher level. Let's begin. Luo Feng started to create the secret technique. However, just when he decided to fight an opponent, the Castellan of Chaos City appeared in golden robe. Teacher, Luo Feng greeted him with respect. Luo Feng was confused. Castellan teacher had asked him to come to see him after 10 battles, but here he was after only 2. And the Castellan was patient enough to wait for him to finish. You're going to create the 2nd move? The Castellan asked, looking at Luo Feng. Yes, Luo Feng said with respect. I don't think the first move of Moon Policy or 10,000-star Sermon Map is enough, which is why I need to create the 2nd one. You're studying both of them, the Castellan continued. Yes. Luo Feng didn't hesitate a bit. The Castellan frowned and said in a throaty voice, "Did you engage in any fighting?" "2," Luo Feng answered. "I barely won the first one but lost the second one." "What's your takeaway from that?" the Castellan asked. "I realized that both strengths and treasures are important," Luo Feng said. "For one thing, treasures can't be fully utilized if the owner is not powerful enough. Plus, one will be put at a disadvantage in a battle against enemies at the same level if he doesn't have treasures. For me, I have adequate treasures, whereas I need to increase my power." Both Luo Feng and the Castellan stood among the stars in the practice field and engaged in questions and answers. "Didn't these battles make you realize that you're wasting your time trying to follow the spirit reader path?" the Castellan scolded Luo Feng in a raucous voice. The voice directly hit Luo Feng's mind, yet Luo Feng remained extraordinarily firm. "Waste of time?" Luo Feng shook his head. "No. I feel like I'm strengthened and that it's the right path for me." Luo Feng thought the Castellan was kidding because he owned the star map, which was designed for Spirit Reader to attack. He wouldn't be able to defeat Limit Emperors with his own power and moves, whereas he could outpower Lightning Racing Emperor with the star map. The Castellan shook his head. "Give up. Give up on the Spirit Reader path and focus on the Warrior path." The Castellan sighed. Luo Feng was dazed and stared at the Castellan who had been guiding him all along. "Why?" he asked. "I have an unrelenting will, and I inherited from Demon Sound General, which gave me a high frequency of amplitude. I can make great accomplishments following the Spirit Reader path. But you can accomplish greater things if you follow the Warrior path," the Castellan said. "Could you please clarify?" Luo Feng said and bowed. The Castellan looked at his student, knowing that it was impossible for him to give up because of one sentence alone. "I'll elaborate on it," the Castellan said with earnestness. "First of all, you're a black warrior. Second, you're following the path of Beast God." Luo Feng listened carefully. "The Black Warrior has become a legend in Blood River Land," the Castellan said. "Being a Black Warrior means your genes tally with those of the Beast God, and you can significantly improve your genes using Blood of Beast God in the future. Genes are foundational. If you're fundamentally 1,000 times stronger, how is your enemy going to fight you? Besides, the fallen Beast God in Blood River Land concentrated on close combat. Remember, Spirit Reader can never reach the top by following the path of Beast God." The Castellan looked at Luo Feng. Luo Feng was bewildered. "Can never reach the top? You have to follow the path of the warrior to match Beast God's level," the Castellan said. "You're a black warrior, so you have an extremely rare constitution. The fact that you could improve so quickly on the path of Beast God shows your great talent. How can you squander it? You're likely to become a master of the universe if you follow the path of the warrior. It's indeed difficult, but success is guaranteed. If you just follow your own whims, it will be almost impossible for you to become a master of the universe." Luo Feng fell into silence. "Some small clans don't even know about this secret," said the Castellan. "Some have tried both paths like you, which is ridiculous because they will never be able to reach the top. Just take 11 Luo Duo as an example. He was stuck at the last challenge and never managed to cross it." The Castellan looked at Luo Feng. "Think deeply. And give me the answer when you're done." The Castellan turned around. Luo Feng remained silent. "I can only follow the path of the warrior if I want to match the Beast God?" Luo Feng mused. "Being a black warrior means my genes tally with the Beast God?" "That's right. I learned 9 Calamity Tome, after which my genes sharply improved, exceeding those of humans, and that's how I managed to merge the 10 Black River crystals. One path is given by Castellan teacher. I need to follow the path of the warrior and the Beast God, and I'm likely to become as powerful as the Beast God, which means I will become a master of the universe. The Spirit Reader is offered by teachers Washanku. I'll concentrate on 9 Calamity Tome, and there's no need to create any form of secret techniques, because I'll take charge of the Star Tower when I become more powerful in the future. Both students of teachers Washanku are masters of the universe, which means it is more likely that I'll become a master of the universe following this path, not to mention one of the most forceful treasures, Star Tower. Which one should I choose?" Different scenarios struck Luo Feng's mind. He laughed. "Why should I even bother? I'll follow 2 paths since each of them offers a chance for me to become a master of the universe." Luo Feng perked up. "I'm not like Bran, who divided his focus between 2 laws. Although it seems like I am following both the path of the warrior and the path of the Spirit Reader, I'm following the path of the Beast God, essentially. And I can study how to combine them together if I follow both paths. Among the stars, the Castellan stood in the void for quite a while. Teacher, Luo Feng finally said with veneration. You've made your decision? The Castellan sounded tranquil. Yes, Luo Feng said, looking as if there were lights in his eyes. I've decided to follow both paths, and I'll give one of them up if I realize I have made the wrong decision in the future. The Castellan turned to Luo Feng. I will say no more on this, as you've made up your mind, said the Castellan. I'll see how far you can go by following both paths. Luo Feng looked at the teacher. Great. The Castellan nodded. It's okay to make mistakes. What really matters is whether you can persevere and put your heart into it. Luo Feng kneeled. Thank you, teacher. He kneeled because he was sincerely thankful. He realized that the Castellan would still support him even if he went against his suggestions, and that the Castellan arranged one opponent after another for him to practice his secret techniques, which was time-consuming. Even if the Castellan valued Luo Feng because of his race, he owed so much to him. He needed to remember his kindness and repay it when he had the chance. Let's begin. Luo Feng disappeared, and the golden horned beast appeared. Luo Feng followed the usual schedule and started with Moon Policy, followed by 10,000 Star Sermon Map. In the rural area of the universe, Black Flower Secret Region, inside Ice Hell, the news was spreading that Luo Feng had managed to survive both Death God's Point and Silverlook and escape. However, there weren't advanced communications in Ice Hell and the detector Luo Feng carried was interrupted. It was not realistic to establish an internal virtual world inside Ice Hell. Poor communication. Besides, there were feuds between the powerful creatures, and they were so hostile toward each other that they would fight each other anytime they met. Only some friends or equals would gather once in a while. As a result, only 1/3 of the creatures knew about what Luo Feng had done after more than half a year had passed. In the snows of southern Ice Hell stood a spectacular palace with blocks of ice littered all around. Demon race characters were crafted on them, which were clearly the rankings of Ice Hell. Without a doubt, inside the palace lived a very special creature, Skywolf. One of the 5 invincible emperors. Additionally, he was the editor of the rankings and also happened to be best-tempered. It was said that Skywolves were ruthless and fierce creatures, whereas the Skywolf living here was arguably one of the most peaceful. However, he would also kill if he was irritated. After all, he was one of the top 5 creatures in all of Ice Hell, a title earned by majestic battles. In the tremendous icy throne sat a mountain-like demon around 15 kilometers long. It was covered with snowy hair tipped with gold, giving the appearance of a halo around him. There were 3 strange, scar-shaped engravings on his forehead. He was Skywolf. Master, it seems the ranking needs to be updated. There have been new battles? Yes. It was the human who fought with Lightning Racing Emperor and Silver Eye. 5 servants covered with scales stood in the palace, and they were at the level of officials. Skywolf had brought them here when it was detained. Human. Skywolf suddenly raised his head and glared down at them. Where is the human? Find the human right now. The servants were dazed. Master, the fight was more than half a year ago. More than half a year? Skywolf growled. When the human showed up in Ice Hell, Silver Eye had publicly looked for him. Skywolf, on the other hand, had sent his servants to search for him in secret but had eventually given up the search. He hadn't expected the news to come more than half a year late. This can't go on, said Skywolf. Skywolf stood up with his 4 hoofs on the throne. His servants kneeled down under the fear of his might. The 5 servants stayed silent, kneeling. Skywolf looked bellicose. Even if the human shows himself sometime in the future, he will disappear again when I get the news. Skywolf realized that and quickly made a decision. Prepare the ice tablets. He said in a deep voice. Yes, master, the servants answered. One of them turned around his hands and put a giant, bar-shaped ice tablet on the ground. Skywolf walked down from the throne and toward the tablet. Tell me about the 2 battles, Skywolf said. Yes, master. The human fought Lightning Racing Emperor first, and the Emperor was suppressed by the human. Besides, the human was so rapid that Lightning Racing Emperor couldn't run away, and he resorted to burning his own body. However, he was still slower than the human with his body being burned. The 5 servants told the stories one by one. Although some details were left out, they mentioned all the key points. Skywolf looked down at the ice tablet. Demon race characters appeared on the tablet one by one, and a new ranking was determined. First, Blood Dog. Second, Silver Eye. Third, Sky Wolf. Fourth, Black Wind. Fifth, Cyan. Sixth, Human. These creatures were named according to their races, for instance, Cyan, Human, and Sky Wolf. As for Blood Dog, Silver Eye, and Black Wind, they had been given these names due to their appearances. This was a usual way to name someone because there was only one from the Cyan clan and one from the human race. The ranking was soon determined, and each name came with a description. The names and the descriptions almost filled the ice tablet, only to leave a huge blank on the top. The servants were baffled and started to mutter, "Master always crafted the ranking from the top to the bottom. Why did it change?" "Yes. I've never seen Master do this." As they were discussing this, demon race characters started to appear on the blank. "Anyone who brings the human to me will be forever protected. And I swear I will not kill him if I see the human. I swear to all of Ice Hell, and this tablet is the evidence." "Done." Skywolf raised his head. "Make 900 copies of this and send them to the peak of the mountain on the other side." "Yes, Master," the 5 servants answered with veneration. They made 900 copies instantly, and one of them flew away carrying these tablets. He flew toward the mountain near Ice Sea where the ranking was usually distributed. That was a battle-free zone where no occupation was allowed, which had been agreed upon by everyone in Ice Hell. The tablets were carried away by one creature after another, and Skywolf's bounty spread throughout Ice Hell. Skywolf's protection? Unless Skywolf dies, nobody can kill me if I can get its protection. Will Skywolf break its promise? How is that possible? Skywolf announced that through the ranking and made it known to everyone. He's not likely to break his promise because of us and humiliate himself publicly. Besides, Skywolf is always proud and doesn't deign to attack us. Also, everyone knows he's peaceful. Hurry up and find the human. That's right. Let's go find the human. All the other creatures tiptoed except for the strongest ones. Even Bone Emperor and Lightning Racing Emperor would avoid meeting the 5 invincible emperors, not to mention the others. Though they were weak, they made up 90% of the creatures in Ice Hell. They devoted themselves wholeheartedly to finding Luo Feng. However, Luo Feng's habitation was hidden deep in the snow, and there was a micro-detector around. Even if some creatures actually arrived there, they couldn't detect Luo Feng with their eyes or godly force unless they destroyed the whole place and forced Luo Feng to come out. The creatures vehemently searched for the human for hundreds of years, after which the enthusiasm gradually wore off. However, there were still some weak emperors continuing to search because once they succeeded, they could live a peaceful life. On one of the islands of the sea, Luo Feng, dresses in black, sat on the beach watching the tides. As for the golden-horned beast, it was staying in Inner World and copying the sculpture of Beast God. "It's been 1,000 years, said Luo Feng. "I thought it would be almost impossible to improve because my conception of the Beast God reached level 20 of Heavenly Bridge 1,000 years ago. By contrast, it was slowly but constantly improving." Luo Feng was smiling. "However, there's a huge gap between level 20 and level 21, which takes 10 times longer than improving from level 19 to 20. The conception of Beast God was achieved by copying different sizes of Beast God sculptures. Luo Feng's perception of the merging law of Tao of Beast God was important as well, as it was difficult to achieve without it. Perception of law was the root and the trunk. Conception was the branches. Only if the root was deep enough and the trunk thick enough that the tree could bloom. They were functioning upon each other. With the perception of law, one could grasp a higher level of conception. Meanwhile, a higher level of conception boosted the perception of law. Time flew. The golden-horned beast concentrated on Ranch and 7 move and tried to apprehend the conception of Beast God by copying. The human form was studying moon policy and 10,000 star sermon map. The Castellan provided different opponents based on the weaknesses of Luo Feng's moves, under which Luo Feng refined his moves and improved sharply. He was already able to create new moves based on the second chapter, Muscle, and apply the law in a magnificently comprehensive way. It took Luo Feng 1,600 years to create the second move for moon policy. Both the move of Blade and Shouwu Wing could be utilized. One move of Blade could destroy any obstacle. It was almighty. However, Luo Feng ran into some difficulties when studying 10,000 star sermon map. Luo Feng originally thought that he could create the second move of the map 10 times faster than creating the move for moon policy. After all, he was already experienced. However, it was much more difficult than Luo Fen thought. The first move is based on the first chapter, and it's simpler. Yet the second one stems from the second chapter, which is far more complicated. It becomes so difficult that I can't extrapolate from Moon policy. Luo Feng identified the key distinction between the law of close combat and that of spirit weapon. The two weapons would only become more different when the secret technique became more intricate, and the experience would become increasingly useless. Inside the Palace of Thunder Island in the virtual universe, Luo Feng stepped into the palace, stopped halfway, and greeted, "Master, I've created the second move for both. Please give me some advice." "You realized, didn't you?" came a voice from the infinite airflow. "I realized," Luo Feng said with respect, "that I was wrong to think it would be easier to create the move for spirit weapon if I knew how to create the move for close combat. However, it wasn't as easy as I thought. You're creating the top secret technique instead of the mediocre one. There are fundamental differences between the arcane codes of close combat and spirit weapons. Of course, the more you study them, the more obvious the differences will be. You can still refer to each other when creating the first or second move, but there will be no point when you start the third and fourth move. What's more, it will only slow you down if you do that when you're creating the fifth move, let alone the sixth one. And it will be an impossible venture to create the seventh move, which represents the power of a master of the universe." Luo Feng was startled. "Diluting your concentration can indeed help you at first by supplementing one arcane code to another," the Castellan said. "However, they will only negatively affect each other when you reach a higher level, making it strenuous to create one more move. You think the powerful creatures are afraid of squandering time? No. They have eternal lives and couldn't care less about time. What they are really afraid of is losing the chance of the peak forever. Are you still sticking to your own way?" "I am," Luo Feng said, nodding. "Fine. You're still qualified to make mistakes. Let's just hope you will change your mind when you start to create the fourth move." Luo Feng bowed without saying a word. "Keep on. Show that you're right with your achievements." The sound was vague. "Yes, teacher." Luo Feng bowed, thinking that he would definitely prove it with his accomplishments. Luo Feng vanished, and his consciousness went back to reality. Inside the cave of Eastern Ice Hell, Luo Feng finally opened his eyes. He had been sitting in the living room with his legs crossed. "Just wait for it, Castellan teacher," Luo Feng said. He had lost the joy he should have had after creating a new move. Rather, all he had was the intention to battle. I need the reality to tell me I was wrong. This video will end here.